Car Obsession is proudly supported by Carly and Draggy. Check out the video description to find out the latest discount codes. Hello guys and welcome back to Car Obsession. You join me inside the Hyundai Ioniq 5, an EV that I've been waiting to get my hands on for quite some time. The reason why you join me inside the car and not outside of it is, well, the weather. Just look at it and hear it. It is beating down on the car. And yes, it is very, very grim today in the UK. Now, I'm getting over quite a nasty illness, so really, the last thing I want to be doing is to be standing out in the wet, talking to camera, whilst getting my rather expensive equipment wet as well. Because of the illness, I've had very limited chance in which to drive this car, and that is a pity because, like I say, I've been waiting to get my hands on this for quite some time. So today's video is going to be quite different because I can't really film anything outside of the car because it's too wet, and because I haven't really had the chance to drive this car properly, I can't really give you a proper sense of what it has been like to live with. So I have dreamt up an idea. We are going to do a range test. Yes, so the car's on charge as we speak. It's got 92%. It's actually charged quite quickly. Granted, I'm using a 75 kilowatts charger, but I haven't actually been here that long. And yeah, I'm on 92% and I got here with about 53%. I've been here for around half an hour or so. I've got about 16 minutes left because the charging does slow down as it gets to 100%. And then when I know what range I've got to play with, I will work out my destination, well, my potential destination, and see whether we can hit it. Along the way, I will give you my thoughts on the car, I will tell you more about it, and give you a review whilst doing the range test. So yes, this will be a range test slash review. Now, let's start off with the outside of this car, because I think it is truly stunning. A lot of EVs nowadays, they're quite striking because they want to get your attention and they want to kind of prove a point. But with the Ioniq 5, it's just such a cool looking car. It's retro meets future awesomeness, but this doesn't happen by mistake. No, this car is the design of this car is inspired by the Hyundai Pony, and that is the first ever production car that the South Korean brand made. And doesn't it look good? But as much as Hyundai has looked to the past, it is also looking to the future, and this car is very clever. It's built on the hang on a minute, Electric Global Modular Platform, or EGMP for short. This is a bespoke platform for electric vehicles, and the Ioniq 5 is the first car to feature under the new Ioniq brand, which is dedicated for electric vehicles. But yes, this is a very striking car. This has got the first clamshell bonnet ever fitted to a Hyundai. You've got flush door handles to help with aerodynamics, although they're not actually that seamless to use. They're a little bit clunky. It's like trying to hold a bar of soap when you open them. They're not they're best to use. And at the back, you've just got a bit of a light show, and it all looks rather funky. And also the alloys. They're interesting, aren't they? They look as if they've been made with a spirograph. If you don't know what that is, ask your parents. Anyway, as much as I could bleat on more about this car, this isn't a very dynamic way of filming, is it? So let me set up some more GoPros inside the car, then we can start our range test. It's more like it. So I have 216 miles of range. Now, for context, when this car was brand new, this is the 73 kilowatt hour battery version, which I'm pretty sure you can't buy anymore because it's been replaced with the 77 kilowatt hour battery. But yes, anyway, when this was new, I believe this offered a range somewhere between 280, 300 miles. So yeah, to have 216 to play with isn't exactly ideal. Now, originally, my aim was to head to Sheffield, but that is going to be cutting it too fine. And as much as I want this to be a range test, I don't want range anxiety. So yeah, let's pop my camera away. By the way, there's lots of storage in here. It's very impressive. And this center console, or as Hyundai call it, the universal island, it can move backwards by up to 140 millimeters. That's 14 centimeters, in case you didn't know. So yeah, that's quite impressive, and it means that you've got a free-flowing area here. So if you want to play footsies with your front passenger, you can do so, although don't do it when you're driving. It's silly and dangerous. Anyway, I said I'd get on the move, and I'm still waffling. Yes, I know. I want to have it die hard. So, where shall we go? Now, I want to go somewhere eco-friendly, somewhere where this car will be welcomed with open arms. Let's go to Cardiff. Now, that's 179 miles, start again, Aaron. That's 179 miles away. That gives us a good buffer. So, can we get from Worthing to Cardiff? There's only one way to find out. Now, the first part of this drive is in and around town, and like I say, I'm going from Worthing, and the roads around here leave quite a bit to be desired, but it'll be a good way in which to test the ride comfort. And so far, I'm impressed with the ride. Yes, every now and then you can hear the suspension working, and you can hear a little bit of a thud, but for the most part, this car is comfortable. It soaks up the bumps really nicely. The steering is nice and light. It is quite a large car, but despite that, I would say it's easy to manoeuvre. You've got good driver assistance systems as well. When you indicate whether it's left or right, you do get a little image come up on the 12-inch digital display, and it gives you, it's basically a blind spot monitor. It's quite handy, actually. Got a rear view camera, an all-round camera, front and rear parking sensors. So I think you'll struggle to have difficulty parking or manoeuvring the Ioniq 5. I spoke about the 12-inch digital instrument cluster a few moments ago, but we've also got a 12-inch touchscreen as well. So you've got two large screens which are very crisp, very vibrant to look at. They do seem a little bit Mercedes in the layout, but that isn't a complaint, that's merely an observation. And to be fair, if you're being compared to Mercedes, I think you're probably doing something right, aren't you? So yes, that is not a complaint. The touchscreen is easy to use. I had no issues using it as soon as I jumped into the car. If you've had any other Hyundai products, then this should be quite familiar to you. The only thing I will say is that, particularly for the left-hand side of the touchscreen, it is going to be a bit of a reach. I've got fairly long arms, but even if I wanted to, for example, if I wanted to play that song, I need to lean forward. It's not a hardship, but it may be annoying to some of you watching. One thing that won't annoy you though is just the sheer amount of space in here. I would have liked a panoramic roof, don't get me wrong, because particularly on a day like today, I would want more natural light to cascade, I love that word, cascade, into the cabin. But apart from that, it is a nice spacious area in which to be in. There's loads of storage options, and because this is, you can move this backwards and forwards, you can have even more space in the front. The rear seats recline, they slide forwards and backwards. There isn't really a bad seat in the house, in all honesty. Well, okay, maybe the middle rear seat, but who wants to sit there anyway? Here's a nifty feature. Let's say you've had a bit of a tiring drive, you've come to your charging point, and you want to have a bit of a nap. Haha, Hyundai has you covered. Watch this. Nap mode. Yeah, I like it. Not to be used when driving. Oh, that's nice, although it does feel like a dentist is about to walk in. I'd much rather have a masseuse though. Oh, a nice massage would be very welcome right about now. Anyone? Anyone? Oh, maybe not. Back into the land of the living. What about practicality? The Ioniq 5 has you covered. The door bins are of a good size. You can fit in a 500ml bottle, although I reckon you could fit a litre if you really tried. You've got 2 cup holders in the middle, a wireless phone charging pad underneath the cup holders, a large centre armrest which opens up for even more storage, a large tray down here where you can fit some relatively large items actually, not a chest of drawers though, that's just silly. A cubby hole down here in the centre console, but you don't get a glove box in this car, very bizarre. No, you get a glove drawer, and in fact it is rather vast. So let's play a game of empty the glove drawer. I did try to sell the rights to ITV, but they weren't interested. Oh well, their loss. So I've got some napkins and some rubbish. I've got one of those things for a coffee cup that I didn't need. Sweets, festive chocolate, buns, iced buns. This is not looking good for my diet, is it? USB cable and my other clip-on microphone, or one of my other clip-on microphones. A GoPro. This feels like the Generation game. There's no big teddy in here though. It's not that big. Manual for the car. A leather pouch with Hyundai branding. Spec sheet. Spec sheet. Spec sheet. Spec sheet. And guess what? A spec sheet. There we go. And the space you're left with is properly impressive. It's like Mary Poppins' bag. It's just never ending. Rumour has it it's larger than some studio apartments. Very, very impressive. Well done, Hyundai. Now you may have spotted some paddles on the back of the steering wheel. Of course, this is an electric car, therefore it doesn't have a gearbox. So these paddles aren't to change gear. What they are for is to increase or decrease the regenerative braking. So if I use the left paddle, I can actually make it so strong that I can use this with the I pedal, which is similar to the E pedal in the Nissan Leaf. So if I lift off the accelerator, the car will come to a stop by itself. No brakes involved, well, not by me anyway. It will take a bit of practice to finesse, because you'll either not leave yourself enough time to stop or stop far too soon. So have I nailed it? Almost. But I'm not gonna use the iPad. I'm gonna have it on. I need to give the car a fighting chance, don't I? Let's have it on level 3 for the regenerative braking. So you now join me in Guildford. I've been on the road for a little over an hour. In case you don't know, Guildford is in Surrey. In case you really wanted to know, although you've always got Google, you don't need me, do you? Yeah, the Ioniq has been very pleasant to drive. It's comfortable, easy to drive, easy going. It's got all the tech you need. I've currently got my heater seat set just so. It's making me feel very nice indeed. Warm and fuzzy. Like a teddy bear. So I'm in the wrong lane. Seamless. No one spotted that. So now that I've been on the road for exactly 38.6 miles, I can tell you a little bit more about the car. As I touched upon, you can hear the suspension working a little bit, but the Ioniq 5 is very comfortable. It's an easy car to get on with. Time will tell whether these seats are supportive enough for a longer drive. Granted, this is an EV and it's probably more suited for town driving or in and around the city, but given the range this car has, there will be times where perhaps you want to see family that are on the other side of the country. Perhaps you want to go away for the weekend. There will be times where you will want or need to drive this for a longer distance. Therefore, seat comfort is important. Speaking of the seats, the front seats are electronically adjustable. They are heated and ventilated. The outer rear seats are also heated, which is nice. So your outer rear passengers can have a nice toasty bum. Very nice on a day like today where it is a little bit chilly. Going back to the ride, it is compliant. I think if you're someone that suffers with travel sickness, you may find this to be a little bit uncomfortable, because I wouldn't call the ride boaty, that would be rude and unkind, but it does have a certain floaty aspect to it, if you ask me, which in some respects is a good thing, because it does feel like it floats along the tarmac, glides along the tarmac, but I do find it has this kind of, it feels like a bobbing motion. So if you do suffer with travel sickness, you may want to bear that in mind. Refinement, yeah, it's pretty good. Granted, I do have large alloys fitted to the car, but the actual road noise coming into the car is impressive. I'm yet to detect any large wind noise, which is a bit surprising, because although Hyundai has worked hard to make the Ioniq 5 as aerodynamic as possible, it's still quite a boxy car. A sexy boxy car, but a boxy car nonetheless. Now I've got the premium trim level, I've got plenty of standard. If you want to know more about the trims and pricing, Kona M. If you want to know more about the pricing and specification, I will cut to a voiceover.
Actually, correction, the car on test was actually the ultimate version. The Ioniq 5 comes in 3 trim levels: Premium, Ultimate and Namsan Edition, with respective prices of £43,150, £49,650 and £54,150. But what do you get as standard? The Premium gives you features such as 19-inch alloys, LED lights, heated front seats, dual design climate control, 12.3-inch touchscreen with Bluetooth, DAB radio, smartphone connectivity and navigation, wireless phone charging pad, 12.3-inch digital instrument display, heated steering wheel, front and rear parking sensors, reversing camera, adaptive cruise control and a good host of safety systems. The Ultimate adds to this with 20-inch alloys, electronically adjustable front seats, ventilated front seats and heated rear outer seats, sliding centre console, leather interior, full leather interior, rear privacy glass and Bose sound system with 7 speakers and 1 subwoofer. Then of course, last but not least, you've got the Namsan Edition. This adds a panoramic roof, full digital side mirrors, heat pump and an electronic function for the sliding outer rear seats.
An update in regard to range, well, we are doing very well, and I'm starting to think that perhaps I should have set a more difficult challenge for me and the car, but you never quite know with EVs. When you get out on the open road, the range can sometimes plummet unexpectedly, and then you end up with range anxiety quite early. For example, a few years back I had a Nissan Leaf, and I drove that from South London to Stratford upon Avon to Caffeine and Machine. In theory, we should have arrived there with, from memory, about 30 or 40 miles to play with, so a decent buffer. Now, okay, it was cold, it was in the height of winter. I did have 2 passengers, but we got there with almost no charge left. The last hour of that drive was stressful, frantic, and yeah, very uncomfortable. I think at one point I had to drive at 50 miles per hour. On this drive, however, I've driven the car how I would drive any car. Although I've got a choice of 3 driving modes, I've got Eco, Normal and Sport. I've got it in Sport, and I'm not driving in a particularly eco-friendly manner. I'm driving the car as I would normally, because really and truly, I think that's the proper way of testing the range. Yes, okay, I'm not going to get the highest amount possible, but on the same hand, on a day-to-day drive, you're not going to be hypermiling, are you? You're going to be driving the car as you would normally. So this is a normal, down-to-earth test. Now, a while back, I tested the Ford Mustang Mach-E, a similar kind of car to this, and the memory of that car is relatively fresh. So let's draw some comparisons. Now, to kick off with, this is definitely the more comfortable car. The ride in the Mach-E was quite disappointing, as was the boot. This has got a larger boot. This offers 527 litres, but you can make the boot smaller or larger by sliding the rear seats backwards and forwards, so it gives you better flexibility. The interior of the Mach-E is perhaps a bit more interesting, but what I prefer about the Ioniq 5 is that it feels a little less try-hard. It's just well designed, it's got everything you need, and it's not exactly trying to, how can I put it? It's not trying too hard. That's what I'm getting at. Whereas the Mustang Mach-E, that it just feels like Ford were, yeah, putting a bit too much effort into it. Now, as with a lot of EVs or hybrids I've driven, the brakes, in my opinion at least, are incredibly numb. Now, the regenerative braking doesn't help with that, but there have been a few times where I've come to traffic at a junction, I've applied the brakes and gone, oh, actually, that's not enough pressure. Apply more pressure, haven't quite got the feedback I'd want. It makes it a bit difficult to really modulate what you're doing. Not a deal breaker, but yeah, I would want more feedback from the pedal because it is incredibly numb. So I'm officially in Wales, and look at that, the sun is actually trying to come out. Who knew? I thought it always rained in Wales, but no, the sun is trying to make an appearance. Onto the range. Things, I'm afraid, are not looking good. They're looking fantastic. I've got 60 miles left, and on my journey I've got 16 miles left. So yeah, I've got a very large buffer, and in fact the large buffer has been consistent all the way through. I've driven a few electric cars on longer journeys, and you start off with quite a nice comfy buffer, but then as you get on, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and the range anxiety only gets larger and larger and larger. But no concerns in the Ioniq 5. When I started the journey, I had a buffer of 37 miles, which is a good amount of safety. But for most of the journey, it's actually crept up to about 50 miles, which, yeah, is really, really impressive. At this moment in time, yeah, again, it's around 50 miles. So the way in which the Ioniq 5 has managed its power is impressive, bearing in mind I'm driving the car in normal. It's not the warmest of days. It's 12 degrees at the moment, Celsius. And I haven't tried extra hard to drive this car in an economical fashion. I've just driven it how I would do usually. That's not to say I've got a particularly heavy right foot, but I've just driven the car, yeah, casually. I haven't had that thought in my head of, oh, I must be really delicate with the throttle because I need to conserve my range. No, I've just driven it like I would a petrol or diesel car. At this point, I'm trying to think of something that has niggled me about this car, something I don't like, and genuinely I'm really struggling to think of something. The drive selector's in a bit of an awkward place and feels kind of odd. I wouldn't say it feels bad as such, but I don't know, it just doesn't feel quite right. Other things I don't like, yeah, it would be nice to have proper buttons for the climate control, but I'm quite happy with the compromise of having touch sensitive, or having a touch sensitive panel in place of having them within the touchscreen. As I've touched upon once or twice, reaching the left part of the touchscreen can be a little bit of a faff when you're moving, but it isn't a hardship. So yeah, I'm really struggling to think of things which I don't like about this car, because it's been a very pleasant companion so far. I've been on the road a little over 3.5 hours. I've not stopped for a break because I haven't felt the need to, which is high praise, bearing in mind I'm still not feeling 100%. Yes, I can see it Fiat 500 there. Thank you. As a companion for driving a longer distance, I would definitely recommend this over the Mustang Mach-E. It's a nicer car to live with. It's more easygoing. The ride is significantly better. And I think this car, the Ioniq 5, compared to the Mustang Mach-E, is less try-hard. I think with the Mustang Mach-E, the Ford team have really wanted to make an impact with it, and there's a few gimmicky bits inside which you don't get in the Ioniq 5. You get everything you need. It's laid out very nicely. The ergonomics are pretty much bang on. There are a few things in here which don't quite make sense. This car is, of course, looking towards the future, but on a slightly, well, I say slightly, on a very pedantic note, the USB ports in here are the standard old type that have been around for about 50 years. Okay, not 50 years, but you get my point. I'm quite surprised that you haven't got Type-C USB ports in here. Not a complaint, merely an observation. Anything else I don't like? Yeah, the way how I have the steering wheel, it does cut off a little bit of the bottom of the digital instrument cluster, but to be fair, that's my driving position. I could easily drop the steering wheel down 1 or 2 millimeters, so yeah, again, that isn't really a complaint. So there we have it. Cardiff completed it, mate. And look at that, 44 minutes earlier than predicted. So I gave Google Maps a big smiley face for feedback. Lovely stuff. So duration was... Oh, hang on, what's going on here? Come on. Oh, that's irrelevant because I had to restart the sat-nav. No. Get rid of that. Right, so I've still got 49 miles of range. I am astounded. I thought this was going to be a struggle, and that, well, I say struggle, I thought it was going to be less easier than it actually turned out to be. Now, of course, it doesn't take a mathematician to work out that I don't have enough range to get home, so I do need to find somewhere in which to charge this Ioniq 5 up. So, time to end, and much like the intro, for the outro, I'm hiding inside the car away from the nasty, windy, wet weather. Onto the Ioniq 5, and although I'm not a massive fan of EVs, I did have quite high hopes for this car. When I first saw it, I thought, oh, that looks good. I hope it drives as good as it looks. And you know what? It does. Yeah, it's not the most engaging to drive, but there aren't many EVs that are, in my opinion. It's easy to drive, it comes with a lot of kit, it looks fantastic, and it comes with a good warranty as well. There's plenty going for this car, and I can't really think of much that I don't like about it. The things that I don't like are almost trivial and insignificant. So, to summarise, should you buy, try or avoid the Ioniq 5? I think if you're in the market for this kind of electric SUV, you should buy it. It's a really, really good car. I just wish I could have spent more time with it, but due to my illness, I wasn't able to. But the time I've spent with it today has been very pleasant, very positive. Get it? A little electric pun. Yeah, I know, it was pretty pathetic. Yeah, my time with the car has been positive, and I've actually quite enjoyed it. And for me to say that about an EV is, yeah, that's high praise. So Hyundai, you should take that and run with it. Speaking of Hyundai, a big thank you to Hyundai UK for loaning me this car for the week, although I've only really driven it for a day, but hey ho. And of course, a big thank you to you watching this video. I do hope you have enjoyed the slightly different format. It may have worked, it may not have worked, but let me know. It was needs must really. But yes, if you have enjoyed the video or found it useful, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click the bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time, guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession.